I want to thank this first person that shared their story of sexual assault with me, that I'm going to be reading to you. She's extremely brave, and I think it is something that's very empowering and healing. And I encourage anybody else that is interested in doing this to reach out to me. It's a very strong story. She never reported this to any kind of authorities. Nobody was ever penalized or disciplined for any of this. As most survivors can tell you, it's rarely reported. So I'm going to read it to you. Hopefully I can get through it without getting too upset. My story starts off in the 6th grade. My grandmother had died and we moved from the city into her home into an upscale neighborhood. It was an awkward move from a school where everyone was friends with each other to a school that reminded me of the movie The Breakfast Club. I remember my first encounter with other kids there was being made fun of because I didn't know what a pair of Levi jeans was. There were a few boys that lived in the neighborhood. One in particular lived across the street from me. He was a quiet kid the same age as I was, and he came over a few times to throw a baseball with me, but that was the extent of it. He never really spoke to me. I can't recall the exact time frame, but fast forward to about a year later. I was an outcast with few friends. I didn't fit into the mold or really any cliques, and the boy across the street and I didn't interact anymore. One fall afternoon, I stepped off the bus. I know it was fall because I remember the piles of leaves, and he got right off behind me. As I was walking, I remember hearing him walking faster. I didn't think much of it until I entered my back porch and he came storming in. He had this crazy look on his face and said nothing. He pushed me down on the floor and started trying to undress me. I fought hard and was yelling loud. It was a quiet neighborhood, and I guess he thought if someone was hearing me scream, it scared him off. He ran out the back door, and that was that. I didn't say a word to anyone, and so my story of abuse begins. Still awkward with not many friends, a few guys from the football team started talking to me. I welcomed the attention. These were the popular boys, and they were talking to me. A few weeks went by, and one started becoming extra friendly to me. One day I was sitting in music class waiting for the teacher to arrive. I felt someone grab my arms and pull them behind me. While this happened, another boy started grabbing my breasts. The teacher walked in and they let go. This started the same behavior from several of the other football players. While I was at my locker, in the hall, wherever and whenever they felt like it, they chose grabbing whatever body parts they felt like. I was an ugly 7th grader who got made fun of on a daily basis. As horrible as it sounds, while I didn't enjoy any of it, for me it was attention, so again I said nothing. This went on for months, and as they did this to other girls as well, until someone finally reported them. The only thing that was done about it was the principal got on a loudspeaker and announced he was aware of it and said, "This molestation will stop." And that was the end of it. Another year passes, and I'm about 14 or 15 now. I started to become friends with the rebel type of kids. Like Bender in the movie The Breakfast Club. I started roller skating and actually became really good at it. I didn't have skates, so I always had to borrow a friend's. At this point in my life, my mother had moved out with her boyfriend, and I was living with an alcoholic father who got drunk and used me for a punching bag. But that's a whole other story. I started hanging around with a group of older guys, ages 18 to 21. This next part is hard for me to express because I blame myself for years. And I think deep down I still do a little. Because I liked the one. He was 20 or 21, and I was a young 14 or 15-year-old girl. He had a girlfriend, but still flirted with me. One of the other guys liked me, but I didn't like him at all. The one I liked started becoming controlling with me. He was like the ringleader, telling me who I could hang out with and what I could do. I had to do summer school that year, and I remember they were the ones taking me and picking me up. What happened that summer is a bit of a haze, but what I do remember is him forcing me to shower and then told one of the other guys to hold me down so one of the other guys could try oral sex because he never did it before. The next time I remember is this guy was staying over at my house to go boating with my father the next day. That night I went downstairs and was raped by him. I spent the next 2 hours trying to pull out a tampon that had gotten shoved up inside me. I know more things happened, but this is all I can recall. Shortly after that, I got a boyfriend and got myself away from them. A few months later, I told my mother what had happened. I don't know why I even did. She moved out and left me, knowing I was being hit by my father, and made the choice not to take me with her. As I was sobbing, telling her the story, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry." Nothing was done and no more was said. I quit school in the 9th grade and began another spiral with drugs and alcohol. I'm blessed to be alive today. Almost 40 years has gone by and I've seen these people on Facebook. I found out the first boy had died years ago. The rest probably don't even remember. The damage that was caused is done and I can't go back and change anything. So I just keep moving forward. It's a very, very powerful piece of writing. And I know this person, and I can't say I know her well, but she is an amazing person who does amazing things, not just for herself and her family, but for other people. And to survive something like this, I messaged her and said how much it touched me, but to read this and know the kind of mental strength it took for her to get through this and create the life she did for herself today, it's remarkable.